Asterisk my brother stood up at the birthday dinner, raised his glass, and toasted to my failure. To Kevin, who peaked in high school and now fixes toilets for a living, everyone laughed. My parents didn't stop him. My ex-wife smirked across the table. I stayed silent, but that silence, it was the calm before the storm. You'd think a family dinner would feel like home, but mine, it felt like court. And I was always on trial. I was raised in the small town of Brenton, Missouri, population 6,100 and shrinking. My brother Carson was the golden boy, top of his class, quarterback. Now some hotshot realtor in Dallas. Me, I'm Kevin. I run my own plumbing business. They call me just a plumber. Every year, I still show up to family events, not for them, for my daughter, Maddie. She's 17, smart, witty, kind. She deserves at least one parent trying to keep the peace. But this year's dinner, it was a war zone in a steakhouse. It was our mom's 60th. And my parents had rented a back room at some overpriced downtown place with white tablecloths and waiters who looked like they judged your income. Buy your shoes. I walked in alone. Maddie was at her mom's this week. My ex, Amanda, was there sitting next to Carson. Yeah, that Carson, the one who comforted her after our divorce. No one at the table stood up when I walked in. No hello, no wave, not even from Mom. I took the only empty seat across from Amanda. She looked me up and down like I was a stray dog. Then Carson stood, glass of Merlot in hand, full grin on his face. I'd like to make a toast, he said. Everyone turned to him like Moses was about to part the Red Sea. To Mom, for raising two boys with very different outcomes, he said, with a smug chuckle. To Kevin, who taught us that not everyone can be successful, and that's okay, because someone's gotta unclog the restrooms. The table burst into laughter. Even my dad grinned. Amanda chuckled under her breath, and me, I stared at my steak. Rare, just like respect in this family. I didn't say a word, but inside something cracked. Not just anger, not just shame, something else. Resolved. They thought I was a joke, a background character in their golden boy drama. Fine, let's flip the script. After dinner, I stepped outside, lit a cigarette I'd been saving for months. It tasted like gasoline and defiance. I didn't go home. I went to my truck. I opened my glove box, and I took out the envelope, the one with the letterhead, Benton County Courthouse. Inside, a sealed judgment. It was time. 6 months ago, my brother got greedy. Real estate wasn't enough for him. He started pulling shady deals, buying homes with insider info, bribing building inspectors, flipping permits. Small town. But even small towns have paper trails. He looped in my dad, who, shocker, works in city planning. How do I know? Because I installed their illegal second water lines. They paid me cash. I kept receipts. And photos. And recordings. I never intended to use them. I'm not that guy. But when my daughter asked me, Dad, why do they always talk down to you? Something inside me broke. So I called a lawyer. We made copies. We filed reports. And now I had all the leverage in the world. They thought I was still just a plumber. Great. Because the guy who knows where the SH*T goes also knows where the bodies are buried. 2 days after the dinner, I walked into City Hall with a USB drive. The same receptionist who used to ignore me suddenly stood up. We've been expecting you, Mr. Connolly, she said. I handed the drive to the county investigator. Everything's on there. Timeline, payments, zoning maps, signed permits, I said. She opened her laptop and scrolled. Her eyes widened. This is huge, I nodded. Tell me something I don't know. Back home, I waited. It only took 4 days. 4 days for the calls to start. First, from Carson. I let it ring. Then Dad. 3 voicemails. I didn't listen. Amanda texted me, what did you do? I replied with a single word, balance. Then the story hit local news. Prominent realtor under investigation for permit fraud. Subheading, city official also implicated. Their pictures were everywhere. And mine. I wasn't in the story. I was behind it. I wasn't the joke anymore. I was the reckoning. But here's the twist. I didn't do it just for revenge. I did it because for the first time in my life, I realized I didn't need their approval. I needed self-respect. I needed my daughter to see a man who stands up when it matters. Not when they clap, but when they crush. And now I ask you, if your family humiliated you in public again and again, would you stay quiet? Or would you finally fight back? What would you do? Asterisk. The fallout hit like a tornado. On Friday morning, I drove to a clogged septic job on the outskirts of town. I was knee-deep in mud when my phone buzzed nonstop. 9 missed calls, 13 texts, all from Dad and Carson. Then, a voicemail. Dad's voice was shaking. Cave, I don't know what you think you've done, but this is family. We don't tear each other apart over jokes. You crossed the line. I laughed out loud. Right there in a puddle of crap and clay. I laughed until I cried. Family, where were they when I needed help with the mortgage? Where were they when Amanda left and took Maddie with her for 6 months? Where were they the night I had a panic attack alone in my truck, outside a hospital I couldn't afford? Don't talk to me about family. That afternoon, the county sheriff personally delivered subpoenas. Carson's house, raided. My dad's office, sealed off. City Hall, buzzing like a kicked hornet's nest. And guess what? Every single dirty permit they signed had my initials at the bottom, because they made me sign off, because they thought I was too dumb to understand what I was co-signing. They thought a plumber wouldn't read the fine print. Wrong. I read everything, and I remembered. That night, Carson showed up at my place. Didn't even knock. I opened the door and saw him, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, still in his expensive loafers but no socks. Are you insane? He barked. I didn't flinch. You humiliated me in front of my daughter. He shoved me right in the chest. Because you're a loser, Kevin. You always were. And now you've screwed my whole life. I punched him. Not hard. Just enough to remind him that I exist. He stumbled back, stared at me like I'd grown horns. I took a step forward, calm, slow, voice low. You climbed your empire on lies. I was your foundation. Now it's crumbling. He didn't say a word. He just walked off into the dark. No apology. No remorse. Only silence. 2 days later, I got a call from Maddie. Dad, what's going on? She sounded scared. I didn't lie to her. I told the truth, honey. But Grandpa and Uncle Carson, they're saying you're destroying everything. Paused. Then said the hardest thing I've ever said as a father. Sometimes telling the truth means burning down the lies. And yeah, it gets ugly. She was quiet. Then she whispered, I'm proud of you. And I broke down, right there in my work van. Grease on my hands, mud on my boots, tears on my face. A week later, the TV trucks rolled into Brenton. Front lawns turned into film sets. Reporters camped outside city offices. News anchors called it the permit pyramid scheme. But they didn't know the whole story. They didn't know about the birthday dinner. They didn't know about the toasts. They didn't know I was the scapegoat for 20 years of arrogance. They didn't know that my silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Mom called me. Her voice was small. Kevin, they're talking about arresting your father. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I know. You really hate us that much. That hit harder than Carson's shove. No, Mom. I wanted to be part of the family. You just never let me. Double quote silence. Then the line went dead. Amanda was next. She showed up at my job site. Tight dress, high heels, sunglasses too big for her face. Kevin, let's talk. I wiped my hands, took off my gloves. What's there to talk about? You've made your point, okay? Carson's ruined. Your dad's probably going to lose his pension. You got your revenge. I shook my head. This isn't revenge, it's justice. She rolled her eyes. You're still the same guy desperate for validation. That stung, but I smiled, because it wasn't true anymore. I don't need validation, I said. I've got truth. And Maddie, she stepped closer. You know, if things had been different. No, I cut in. If you had been different. Then I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. By month's end, everything changed. Dad was suspended, facing federal charges. Carson's license revoked. His accounts frozen. Their world collapsed like a house of cards. Mine, solid as steel. I had work. I had Maddie. And for the first time in years, I had peace. But something still gnawed at me. That dinner, that moment, that toast. I couldn't shake it. So I did something I never thought I would. I wrote a letter. To every single person at that table. I didn't yell. I didn't blame. I didn't gloat. I just wrote, you laughed at me for being a plumber. But when your lives went down the drain, who else could have handled the mess? I never mailed them, but I kept them. Framed in my hallway. A reminder. Tell me honestly, if your own family mocked your pain and used you for years, would you still forgive them? Or would you let them drown in the mess they made? Drop your answer in the comments. Asterisk. I thought the storm was over, but at WAS in single quotes T. Turns out, the real pain doesn't come when people betray you. It comes when they drag your child into the fallout. And Carson, he wasn't done swinging. A week after the indictments hit the news, Maddie called me again. Her voice was tight, like she was holding something back. Dad, Uncle Carson called me. I froze. He said I should reconsider who I trust. That not everything you did was noble. My jaw clenched. What else did he say? She hesitated. He said your actions could affect my college applications, that people might not want controversy tied to their brand. I nearly dropped my phone. He threatened you, I growled. She didn't answer, but silence is an answer to. I drove straight to Carson's place. Of course he didn't answer the door. His BMW was gone. Probably hiding out with his lawyer, or girlfriend, or both. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I walked to his neighbor's yard, climbed onto their decorative stone wall, and stared right into his security camera. Then I spoke slow and cold. You mention my daughter again and I will ruin you in ways you haven't even imagined. And I left. The next day, I got a call from Maddie's school counselor. Apparently, someone had filed an anonymous complaint questioning Maddie's academic integrity and her moral fitness for scholarship consideration. Didn't need fingerprints. It was Carson. No one else would stoop that low. He couldn't hurt me, so he went after what I love most. Now here's the thing. I know people like Carson. They don't stop unless they lose everything. So I gave the press what they wanted. An interview. Not a sit down, not a sob story. Just a simple statement. My family laughed when I was at my lowest. Now they're crying because the truth came out. I didn't destroy them. They did that themselves. I just stopped cleaning up their mess. And then I dropped the bomb. And anyone threatening my daughter's future will face me in court or in hell. Their choice. It aired on Channel 8. Went viral in under 48 hours. That's when the calls really started. Not from my family. From strangers. Single dads. Factory workers. People like me. They thanked me for standing up, for fighting back, for being the plumber who brought down the castle. I'd never felt pride like that. Not when I won football trophies in high school. Not even when I opened my own business. This was real. But the real twist came the following Friday. Maddie walked into my workshop with a big envelope in her hand. She was shaking. Dad, I got a letter. I stopped what I was doing. She handed it over. It was from Westford University, her dream school. My hands trembled as I opened it. I started reading. Then stopped. Looked up at her. You didn't just get accepted, I whispered. You got the full scholarship. She burst into tears. I did too. We hugged. Right there in the middle of pipes, wrenches, and boxes of fittings. My girl. She did it. We did it. That night, I got a text from Amanda. No words. Just a photo of Carson's front lawn. Spray painted across the grass, in bold red letters, not above the law. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The town had spoken, but I wasn't done. There was still one place I had to go. Mom's house. I knocked. She answered in her robe, hair tied back, face older than I remembered. We stood in silence for 10 long seconds. Then she said it. Why couldn't you just let things be? I stared at her. Then I said the truth. Because letting things be almost ruined my daughter. She looked away. And for the first time, I saw it. Regret. But not for what they'd done. For what they'd lost. The family name used to mean something in this town. Now, it meant scandal. Fraud, humiliation. And I was the one who survived it. No. Escaped it. And built something better. But here's the question that won't leave my mind. If someone tried to destroy your child's future out of spite, would you still try to make peace? Or would you finish the war? Tell me what you'd do. Asterisk. They say truth sets you free. But before that, it rips everything apart. And the truth, it doesn't just destroy lies. It destroys illusions. 2 weeks after Maddie got her scholarship, I received an invitation I didn't expect, a letter from Brenton's town council. Hand delivered. Mr. Kevin Connolly, you are requested to attend a public hearing regarding recent zoning violations, accusations of corruption, and their effect on public trust in elected offices. Open to media. Q&A expected. Translation. They wanted a show. The guy who brought down City Hall now center stage. I almost didn't go. But then I thought of Maddie. Of all the other Kevins in town, the blue-collar ghosts they never saw. Yeah, I was going. The town hall was packed. Reporters, council members, old neighbors who never waved before. Some faces looked grateful, others ready to pounce. And right in the front row, Amanda. And next to her, my mother. No Carson, no Dad. But still, that shook me. They called my name. I stepped up to the mic. No script, just truth. The room went quiet. I spoke. My name is Kevin Connolly, plumber, father, citizen of this town for 41 years. I looked around. At that table I pointed to the empty council seats sat men who abused power, lied, stole. They used people like me because they thought we were too stupid to notice. A few gasps. Some scribbling from reporters. I continued. I didn't burn down City Hall. I just stopped holding up the roof. Someone clapped. Then another. Suddenly the room lit up with applause. It echoed through the rafters. I exhaled. But as I turned to leave, a voice stopped me cold. Tell them the whole truth, Kevin. It was Amanda. She stood up, face calm, voice like poison. Tell them how you took photos of your own brother, how you set them up for months, how you played the victim while recording your family behind their backs. The room went dead silent. Someone murmured, "Wait, what, Amanda?" Turned to the crowd. He didn't just uncover corruption. He orchestrated it. He waited for the perfect moment to strike. People stared at me, questioning, doubting, and in that moment, I cracked, not from shame, from betrayal. She knew why I did it. She'd lived in that same world, cold dinners, favoritism, years of being treated like background noise. But now she flipped, to protect Carson, or herself. I stepped forward, louder than I meant to. Yes, I took photos. I recorded conversations. You know why? Silence. Because for 20 years, I was invisible. The failure, the disappointment, but one you never defended, Amanda, even when Carson was cheating, stealing, laughing at me in front of our daughter. She blinked out. I kept going. I didn't start this war, but I damn sure finished it. The mayor stood up. Order. Let's keep this civil. No, I snapped. Let's keep it real. Then I said it. The thing no one expected. My dad threatened to cut Maddie off his college fund if I didn't cover for Carson's deals. Gasps. Carson offered my daughter a fake internship. Just to spy on me. Double quotes, more gasps. And Amanda. She helped draft the permit applications using her old real estate license. She turned pale. Boom. The truth always lands heavy. Counsel adjourned the hearing with shaking hands. Reporters flooded me in the parking lot. I gave one statement. Truth hurts, but hiding it hurts everyone. And I left. That night, Maddie and I sat on the porch. I told her everything. No lies. No sugarcoating. She listened. Then said the one thing I didn't expect. Dad, maybe you needed them to break you, so you could build something better. I looked at her. Smiled. I didn't build it alone. The next morning, I woke up to three things. An article titled "Plumber Who Exposed City Scandal Shuts Down Critics in Viral Hearing." A voicemail from my mother. I didn't know about Maddie. I'm sorry. A letter from the state. Mr. Connolly, due to your cooperation and evidence in our investigation, the state of Missouri is offering you a civilian commendation for public service and integrity. I held it in my hands for a long time, not because I needed recognition, but because for once I was seen. But what about Amanda? She moved out of town a week later. Word is she tried to get hired at a firm in Kansas City. Didn't get the job. They'd seen the hearing clip. And my family. Dad's still under investigation. Carson's license was officially revoked. He's bankrupt. Mom keeps sending letters. I haven't opened them. Not yet. But there's one question I still wrestle with. If the people closest to you tried to bury you, would you walk away forever? Or give them a second chance they never gave you? What would you do? I didn't expect to end up in court. I thought the council hearing was the grand finale. But the truth, it was only the opening act, because a few weeks later, I was subpoenaed as a key witness in the People vs. Carson Connolly. My own brother. And they wanted me to testify. I'd never been inside a courtroom before. Not like this. Oak panels. Cold air. A silence so sharp it cut through your spine. I took the stand. Swore in. Sat down. Carson wouldn't look at me. But Amanda did. She was sitting behind the defense team. I pale, tight-lipped, pretending this wasn't her mess too. Da began with softballs. Mr. Connolly, how did you come to be involved in the investigation? I answered clearly, calm, honest, and shaken. But when they started showing evidence, the photos, audio clips, emails, the room shifted. Carson fidgeted in his chair. Amanda looked like she wanted to disappear. And Mom, she sat near the back, clutching a rosary she hadn't touched in years. Then came cross-examination. And that's when it happened. The defense attorney smirked. Mr. Connolly, would you say you had a motive? Maybe. Jealousy. Objection. Overruled. Jealous of what? I asked flatly. Well, the lawyer said, flipping through pages, your brother is a licensed professional with a successful real estate portfolio. You, meanwhile, are a plumber, I said. Go ahead, say it. A pause. He smiled. A tradesman. I leaned forward. And what does that have to do with zoning fraud, bribery, or falsified permits? The room stiffened. The attorney hesitated. I'm suggesting you may have engineered this situation out of personal resentment. Then he said it. And isn't it true that your daughter's tuition was recently covered by the same school your brother had connections with? My blood froze. What? I turned to Maddie seated near the back. She looked just as confused. The lawyer continued. Westford University. Carson was on the alumni advisory board. He recommended her. The air left my lungs. No way. That's a lie, I said, shaking my head. Is it? The attorney asked. And then Carson looked up. And smiled. A slow, smug, poisonous smile. I couldn't believe it. He'd planted the seed of doubt. Not just in court, in Maddie's future. And I realized he never stopped scheming. Even now, facing jail, he was playing games with my daughter's name. Court adjourned for the day. I stumbled out, sick to my stomach. Outside, reporters swarmed. But I only had one thing on my mind, the truth. I called Westford, asked to speak with admissions. They confirmed Maddie's scholarship was based entirely on merit. No advisory board. No family strings. No recommendations. They even emailed me the application file. Maddie wrote the whole thing herself. She never even mentioned Carson. I felt relief. Then rage. Because Carson wasn't just trying to beat the case. He was trying to taint her achievement. He was trying to erase her work. He was just to make me squirm. And that was unforgivable. The next day in court, I came armed out with truth. I handed the dumb Maddie's scholarship file highlighted, signed, time-stamped. Then I turned to the judge. Permission to speak to the court. Granted. I stood, hands shaking, voice steady. My brother isn't just a criminal. He's a manipulator. He drags others down to lift himself up. He wants pity. He wants to be misunderstood. I pointed to Maddie in the back row. He tried to steal her victory, her future. That's who he is. Double quotes, gasps. The judge slammed his gavel. Order? But the room had heard enough. The jury took one day. Guilty on all charges. Carson was sentenced to 6 years. Dad took a plea deal of 2 years probation and resignation from public service. And Amanda disappeared, vanished from town like smoke. In the wind. No note. No call to Maddie. Just gone. But the story didn't end there. Because a week after the trial, I got a call from Mom. She wanted to meet. I hesitated, but I agreed. She sat across from me in my kitchen, my sunken voice soft. I made mistakes, Kevin, she whispered. I should have stood up for you, should have protected you. I let their success blind me. I didn't speak, not out of anger. I just didn't know if words could fix yours. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out a folded photo. Me and Maddie at the science fair, covered in paint, both laughing. I keep this, she said, to remind me what real success looks like. I cried, not because I forgave her, but because she finally saw me. Now it's just me and Maddie. She's packing for Westford next week. And me, I still fix toilets, still drive the same old truck. But now people wave when I pass. They honk, they smile, they say thank you, because I didn't just fix pipes. I fixed what everyone else was too scared to touch, the truth. The morning Maddie left for college, the house felt too quiet. To still. I made her breakfast, eggs, toast, and that weird kale smoothie she somehow got addicted to. She was glowing. Excited, nervous, but ready. You okay, Dad? She asked, sipping from her straw. I nodded, but I wasn't. Because this wasn't just goodbye. This was the end of the fight. The war that defined me was over. We loaded the car in silence. I checked every box twice. Then a third time, she hugged me tight. You'll visit every weekend, I said, even though we both knew it'd probably be once a month, if I was lucky. She stepped back, then handed me a card. I didn't open it right away, just stood there as she drove off. My baby girl, off to a future I fought like hell to protect. And then I was alone. I walked back inside, sat on the couch. Opened the card. Inside, in Maddie's neat handwriting, you taught me how to fix things. Not with tools, with truth. Thank you for being brave when I wasn't. I'll never forget what you did, and neither will the world. I couldn't hold it in. I cried, messy, loud, no shame. It was released. It was peace. It was freedom. A week passed. Then two. The phone was quiet. The town was calmer. No more reporters, no more lawyers, just me, my tools, and the sound of a life returning to normal. And then one day, as I was replacing a water heater in a client's basement, my phone buzzed, and no number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Kevin Connolly. The voice asked, yeah, this is Jean Hero from the American Civic Honor Foundation. I blinked. The what now? We'd like to fly you out to Washington. You've been selected as a recipient of the Civic Integrity Medal. I almost dropped the wrench. You sure you got the right guy? I'm a plumber. She laughed. Exactly. They flew me out 2 weeks later. Hotel, dinner, black tie gala. A big hall with chandeliers and senators I'd only ever seen on the news. When they called my name, I walked to the podium in a borrowed suit and muddy boots. I told the story. Short, run, no sugarcoating. And when I was done, the room stood up. Not like the birthday dinner. Not mocking. Not laughing. Clapping. A real standing ovation. Not for who they thought I was, for who I had become. When I flew back home, something wild happened. The mayor was waiting for me at the airport. Offered me a job. City inspector. Full benefits. Pension. Desk if I wanted it, truck if I didn't. I thanked him, but I said no, because I already had the best job in the world, fixing what's broken. A few days later, I drove past Carson's old house. For sale signs still swinging in the wind. Amanda's SUV was gone to ghosts now. But you know what? I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt nothing. Like closing a book you finally finished after too many chapters. And then the final twist. Mom showed up at my door. Again. This time with a casserole and an envelope. I sold the house, she said. I raised an eyebrow. She handed me the envelope. Inside was a check. $42,000. For Maddie, she said. For her second year, maybe third too. I stared at it. Then at her. And she said the words I never thought I'd hear. I was wrong. About you. About everything. She started crying. I raised two sons. Kevin. But only one of them became a man. I let her in. We sat, talked, laughed. Even. It wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was a start. And maybe that's all healing is, the decision to start. Now, it's been a year. Maddie's thriving. She calls twice a week. Sometimes 3. The town remembers. They still wave. I still fix leaks, clean up messes, crawl under buildings with busted pipes and frozen valves. But now, they see me. Not as a failure, not as a joke. As a man who stood when it mattered. And every morning before I head out, I look at that card Maddie gave me. It hangs above my toolbox, right next to my first ever plumbing license. Because in the end, it's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving yourself right. So let me ask you, if life tried to bury you with shame, failure, and betrayal, would you dig yourself out, or would you rise covered in dirt and own it? Drop your answer in the comments. This is your story too. End of story. Asterisk.
That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought? Or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.